got there, they were gone, but they actually came back to kind of walk through like what they found. And I think it's important to hear from them straight from their mouth, and not just in the report you get at the end.
Right. It's nice to not have to read it. Well, you want to read it, but like I'm just saying, like to talk to
When you read
about
it, you don't know what it means.
Right.
Like,
you read it and you're like, oh my gosh, you can
well,
see it.
and every report's like 40 pages. You know, it's like no matter who does it, it's a lot of pages.
Yeah.
And they use very blanket statements for stuff.
Uh-huh.
So if you're not there, when you see HVAC is at the end of its life, that doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, it is, you know, it's still working. It's fine.
Right. And what I find with, if like they use statements like it's at the end of the life, is there a service record? You know, can you ask the seller, can you provide us records that this has been serviced? You know, because a lot of times in those instances, people lived in the house for a long time. I have a seller right now where they have a unit in the house and it's older.
Right.
But they have meticulously maintained it. And typically, if you take good care of it, it's going to outlast that useful lifespan.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. On a house with an older system, I will always ask for a home warranty if it's not already in place.
Yeah.
So.
I ordered replacement filters for my furnace today. Like my vent was like brown.
what it's doing.
It's out of water.
Is it?
Yeah, it did that the other night too.
But I think that one of the main things that your due diligence is once you go into contract is making sure that your lender gets every document needed in a timely manner.
Yes, and that's the lender doing their due diligence on you. You know, like, you know, so I think there's different elements of this. There's you, there's the house, there's even the seller. So we'll talk about here in a minute. You know, we're going to make sure that the seller has free and clear title to offer you. But you're kind of back to the inspection. You know, so you'll have a number of days, and you know, if you've watched us before, you've probably heard this, but you'll have several days to go through and do all your inspections, whether that's obviously a general inspection, radon, termites, wood destroying insects, whatever, lead-based paint, foundation, you know, whatever you want to do, like pretty much in 10 days or however many days you've got. So that's your time to do your the due diligence on the house, right? So then you make sure the house checks out, right? So then after that, then it kind of goes on to the lending part of it, right? So the lender's asking, like Amanda said, asking for all of these documents, tax returns, W-2s, bank statements, all that jazz. So stay on top of that, because if you don't, then you're going to make everything late.
Don't do that.
No one likes when you're late.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people that procrastinate and then you don't close on time, and then you have to get permission. You know, if somebody's living there, so you take permission from both parties, and it's okay to even extend your contract. So
that's just not an assumed. You know, like you just can't assume.
Right. Because they may say no.
And you know, the other people usually are buying a house or moving somewhere else.
Yeah.
So communication is very important, because not only are you dealing with your life, there's a whole nother set of lives on the other side of all of this.
Yeah, you can mess up a lot of people.
And so, you know, with your loan, just stay on top of all of that. They're going to ask you for documents. My saying is they're going to ask you for everything but your DNA.
They do.
I say your firstborn.
Same, yep. Yep.
Can't take my puppy dog.
Well, yeah, you can get my dog. And then the lender's also going to order an appraisal. So that's another part of the due diligence, right? So, and that appraisal's protecting you and the lender, because, you know, they don't want you overpaying, and, you know, that if this does end up in foreclosure, they want to know they can get their money back. So condos, we talked about condos.
Condos. So aspect with condos to look for is the association documents, rules, regulations, bylaws, all the things that impact living in the association and in the community. Financial statements, make sure that the association has enough.
Because there's a big thing, you know, when the roof goes out at your house, and it's just a house, like detached from everybody, that's going to be your responsibility. If you're in a building with 10 other units and that roof goes out,
that a lot of the time they don't understand that if there isn't enough money, like enough funds in your association, then they're just gonna collect more money from you.
You're gonna get hit with an assessment.
Yeah.
That's either collectible up front, or sometimes you can do it as a payment plan. But ultimately, the repair has to get done, so
Well,
there has to be enough
There's
money.
a community in Dublin that struggled for a long time with that.
Major problems.
Well, there's a couple communities in Dublin actually. There's
I
the
think
one
in
that had
Carwell,
the
Illiad,
that was my original thought, but then there was another one where the balcony was not installed properly. The balcony fell on.
on that side behind the
Yeah,
curb.
it's perimeter loop is what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just
Okay.
right off of 161 and Muirfield Drive kind of area.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're finally kind of getting into like, but there are homeowners that still having a hard because they had to do the payment plan thing.
Uh-huh.
So now, like to sell it, the buyer's taking on that payment plan
Yeah.
for work that has already been done.
You can. There's a lot for sale in there right now.
And
Inexpensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a condo like a community that I showed a client in, and their condo fees went up from like $400 to $700
yeah.
Yeah.
a month. Like
Yeah.
that is. a
And the
lot.
older the condo units are, the older the condo buildings are, the bigger that risk is. Because as things start to age, repairs start to get who's gonna pay for this when this stuff happens?
Somebody.
Yeah. So condos, there's just a lot more to the meets the eye. And it is nice buying a condo, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Not having to worry about all the exterior maintenance
Yeah.
sounds wonderful to me
Yeah.
about now.
Yeah, but
And people get excited because of the low condo dues. Well, that's not always
yeah.
the best. You know, just because the condo, why are they so low? Why? You know, is it because now they've got excess funds and they have, you know, I rarely see things go down. They don't lower.
No, things it
Yeah.
never goes down.
Yeah, so, but question why it's so low. And just ask lots of questions when you're buying a condo. That's kind of all in there.
Read the paperwork.
And then I think the last thing, you know, so we talked about the appraisal, Banks of Norway appraisal. They're gonna do kind of a very informal, not as in-depth home inspections. The house still's gonna have to check out, especially if you're doing FHA or VA. So that's another part of this. And then of course, I think really the last part of it is the title work. I mean,
Mhm.
that's all kind of happening, the search and all of that stuff in the
Mhm.
process.
You want to make sure you're getting title clear and free. No liens on the property. No, hidden owner. Thing will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
Like
It's not.
tax liens and
Yeah.
other legal judgments against
Yeah.
people can be
Yeah.
leaned against the house.
So-
People with common name, you know, like Mary Smith or, you know, something like that,
Yeah.
where there's a ton of people that share that name.
It is worthwhile to read just to know. I don't know. I find that
It could
interesting.
cause
It is
setbacks if
interesting.
something like that happens. too. So I think part of our job too is to make sure that we know that, so we can tell you that, because we assume you're probably not reading it.
I always assume people aren't reading anything, because you send people documents to sign, and within 30 seconds you get the email notification they signed it, and it's a 13-page document. And I'm thinking, there's no way they looked at this.
Unless they trust you.
That's what they say, and I'm like, I'm a human, I make mistakes. You need
Yeah.
to look at this. You're the one entering the contract, you know, like.
I like for them to look at it.
Yeah. And then as soon as they see that it's 30, I'm like reading it 5 times before I send it on to the other agent.
I do that anyway.
Just to make sure.
Before I
Yeah.
send it to them, I read it 5 times, but then it's like all the start to blur together. You're like, wait, what? What did I just
It's a
read?
nervous. It's just like dropping something in the mailbox to me when I
Uh-huh.
hit that send button. It's like,
Yeah, it is nerve wracking
because
because
you can't get it. Well,
we
you
have
can.
a huge purchase in our hands.
When you say that to us, to me that means I'm not asking for the seller to pay your closing costs. But to her, no closing costs meant that she wasn't paying closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
And so she didn't read it. And then the day after we go into contract, I get a text message from her. How much are they paying in my closing costs?
Yeah.
And my answer
I had that
was
happen too.
0. Like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we talked about this and you said no. Like, so just that's why you also read the contract, is that, you know, miscommunication happens. You know, like wars start over you know, wrong words. So, you know, certainly 10 minutes to read a contract is going to be not that big of a problem, right? So,
Well, you know, when I remember the first time reading
it's
a purchase
boring.
contract, like it's tough.
It's,
So if you want to walk through it, like if you don't want to read it and want to walk through it, then I always suggest that.
you know, and I almost feel like that's should be more part of. I mean, it is part of our job, and I almost feel like it shouldn't be an option anymore. Is that whether or not you want to sit through walking through every part of the contract? I almost feel like we should do that, but it rarely happens anymore, because everything used to be you'd sit down at a table and everybody would sign everything.
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, not that long ago.
Everybody's like time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, time's so
Yeah.
valuable now. I feel like that, and people don't care to.
it's not more valuable usually than whatever you're paying for the house that you're buying. So,
Valid point.
yes. But that's how I think you're right, and that's how people look at it. So. Anyways, any other things we missed? Or kind of covers it.